welcome back.
Welcome! So in our last video we talked a bit about, well, a bit. It's like we've been talking forever about what it's like working for Chase and oh boy, that thing with the logo, it happened in August of 2019 and that was right after Chase had quit his full-time job to be a creator full-time. And that was kind of the beginning of the end for Cassie and I and our employment there.
Oh yeah, for sure. There were definitely some signs that that was kind of an impending doom situation.
Yeah, so we already said we pretty much ran his company. Cassie more than me. She ran his company, I ran the marketing part of it. Uh, and we kind of noticed, he's not that great at giving direction, and he didn't really follow the chain of command either. Like, he would issue our subordinates direct orders, and it's like we're managing them, and you're just fucking it up. Thanks, Chase. Uh, so we were kind of afraid of what would happen when he quit his job, because not only were we running his company, but we were also like begging him to do stuff that made good financial sense for his company.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then basically it happened once he quit his job. He kind of did more of trying to micromanage, but without giving any real direction. And it,
He wasn't producing any content either. Like, we were struggling to get him to even put out basic lectures on YouTube. Like, it was pretty bad. Now, he quit his job, and it was a long time coming. He had been saying he was going to quit his job from the time that I started working for him, which was back in March of 2019. And, like,
he
he
wanted to
kept on
wait.
saying it.
He wanted to wait until his company was bringing in 15 grand a month, because at that point he would have been able to make a paycheck with his and support himself with his expenditures at that time. But basically
He
we got to
also,
about 10 grand a month, and we were confident that we could grow it up to 15 grand pretty quickly if he quit his job so that he could produce content full time, because most of his revenue essentially stemmed from his YouTube. People would watch the YouTube videos and then they would go to his website or join the Patreon or what have you. So the more videos that went out, like the more views, the more subscribers, the more money. But
mm-hmm.
he really wasn't making videos. So by this time, I was so frazzled of like pleading with him to try to do stuff that made good sense for his company that like I was on the verge of quitting already. I was talking about it all the time. All Cassie and I could do to like de-stress from having to deal with him was just talk, be like, oh my god, I can't believe he's not doing this, or guilting this person, or what have you. And then, Cassie, you got the distinct impression like he was trying to get rid of you.
Oh, it was after the logo discussion, because I basically, when during that conversation, that meeting, when he basically said, none of these are good enough, make me more, I basically was like, no. I told him no, because, again, we were not hired on to be his graphic designers. We were hired on for other things for his business. And it was insanely rude of him to just have that expectation that we would endlessly make him logos until he was satisfied with them. If you want to do that, hire a real graphic designer to do it. And it was basically what I told him. And Emily said too, like, you need to tell us what you want from these then. You can't just
Yeah,
tell us
don't
to
just
make
say
more.
make more. I was like, then tell me what the fuck you want. Like, you weren't part of this whole process. You didn't say anything about what you wanted. Like,
And then when he did say what he wanted, it was just utterly ridiculous for his company. Stuff that had nothing to do with his company. And like, I tried to reasonably discuss that with him, by the way. It wasn't a fight. I was just like, you want a logo that's based on you, your personal opinion of yourself. You are not your company. And he took offense to that. He didn't like being told that he was not his company, because he really does believe It's all about him. By the way, everybody who watches him for his typology content, he thinks you're watching it for him. He thinks you're going there for him, not for the typology content,
By the
but because
way,
you find him entertaining and that you like him.
for those of you who have seen Tiger King, if you notice, I think it was maybe the last episode or second to last episode, what have you, Joe
Spoilers.
Exotic thought people were going to his tiger park for him, not for the tigers. There's quite a few parallels between him and Chase. So back on topic, right around the time with the logos where we were trying to convince him, what was good, you felt like he wasn't exactly happy with you.
No, I could tell that he wasn't happy with me. I could tell that because I told him no, and he didn't like. I told him no in front of the team, and I'll be real with you, he doesn't like being told no, regardless of who it is telling him no. And I did. I outright put my foot down and I told him no. That is a ridiculous request, and I'm not going to do it. I don't have time to do it. Hire a graphic designer if that's what you want to do.
I think I would have helped say no as well. It was like, no, pick one, and then we'll take it from there. This is the process.
He ended up calling me later on. Now, the week that we had this meeting, it was the week after, and that was basically the last week I worked for them. I was really, really sick. Like, I had come down with something, and job at the time was my livelihood. Was very careful not to say things or do anything that would really, really tread on Chase's toes, because I really needed the job. I was paying all the bills. I was paying my rent. I was supporting me and my boyfriend at the time, and it consumed all of my paycheck. $19 an hour, 35 hours a week on average. If I didn't hit the 35-hour mark, I was not going to make enough to make rent, basically. And we described before in our personal conversations, but he had a weird pay schedule where it didn't pay you, like, it was an every other week thing, yeah, but it wasn't a full paycheck every other week. It was a week and then all the way up until Thursday, and it didn't include the Friday's pay. Friday's pay got carried over into the following paycheck. So, like, this was a complication because I was about $40 short of my rent, and there was no way for me to get it other than to get my Friday's pay.
Not just
and I had
that.
already.
Sometimes they would include Friday in your paycheck for that pay period, but sometimes they put it into the next one.
Yeah. And, like, I really, really needed Friday's paycheck, and I needed it. I needed it to make my rent. And I had discussed this already with our financial officer of the business, and he already approved it. He said it was fine I basically asked for an extension, that they would pay me, which, by the way, before getting caught up with this, it was Chase and the financial officer who went and chose when they paid people. They have very easily paid people the following day before. It's not like it was a concrete set in stone thing. It was not an automatic thing. They had to manually go and do it. So what I was requesting really wasn't that difficult to go out of your way to do. So I asked him, I was like, hey, I really need my paycheck for Friday to pay my rent. And financial officer is a friend of mine, and he basically was like, yeah, that's totally fine with me, but you need to run it by Chase, because Chase approves everything and the paychecks. So I went, oh, okay. Me thinking, there's probably nothing wrong with this. It'll probably be fine. I didn't know this, but they had talked before I made a phone call to Chase about this, and Chase had already basically said no, that he wasn't going to approve it. So keep that in mind as I tell you this next bit, where he already had said no to it. He already knew what my request was, and he already said no. I called him to have a conversation with him. It was a weekly thing. Actually, you know what? No, I think he called me. Either way, I was about to call him, and then he called me, whatever. And we were talking about some business-related things, and we get toward the end of that conversation in regards to what was business related. And I went, hey, Chase, I really need to request this of you. I need to pay my rent. And he took this as an opportunity to attack me. He pretty much threatened me with my job and was like, I'm not going to do this favor for you because you went to the financial officer and you bullied him. You made him feel bad. You went behind my back and you purposely tried to make him upset. And he is upset, and you should feel bad about that because you did a terrible thing. And I have all these different things that I know that you've said and done. And, I want you to tell me the truth right now. What do you think of me? So I told him what I thought of him, which was, I don't trust him. And he was like, why don't you trust me? Given all the other shit he's done. Well, I am afraid that you're just going to change your opinion on a whim and, react in a really bad way, as he normally does. And he's just like, what do you mean by that? And it was basically, he pushed me into saying, I don't trust you to not abandon me, to not just fire me out of the blue. Because he had been on a long streak of just firing people that he just didn't get along with, that he didn't like. What was it? 2 people in a row that got fired for that reason? And he pushed me into saying that. And it was kind of true. I was afraid that he was just going to fire me on the spot.
Yeah,
And
she had come to me around that time. Before this happened, just I don't think Chase is happy with my job performance because he's treating me differently, and I'm like, I don't see it. I don't understand how he could be unhappy with you because you're doing such an amazing job. But if you feel that way, you probably have a good reason. So I trusted her even though I couldn't see it.
well, after he cornered me into saying that, I kind of did have an emotional reaction to it because he pretty much did a combination of gaslighting me and guilting me. And I went to the financial officer, who again is our friend, and I basically told him what Chase had said. And he was like, what? I'm not upset with you at all. I have no idea why he told you that, because that's not true. And so at that point, I was just fucking pissed. So angry with Chase. I was just really distraught, and I needed to talk to somebody. And as Emily said, we had been talking with each other and venting to each other for a lot of different things. So I told her I was really upset, and I really had the feeling that he was going to fire me. And so she reached out to him. I'll just let her take over that
Oh
part.
boy, this is a doozy. I have 10,000 screenshots because this is. Once I knew I was quitting, I'm like, I need to capture this. Granted, I'd already said I was on the verge of quitting by this point, so I was already not happy with him. Cassie and I are pretty close friends. We talk to each other about a lot. I trust her. We've met in person. Like, so I went to Chase and I'm like, are you not happy with Cassie? He's like, wait, what? What now? And I'm like, she said, you're a bit upset with her. Now, granted, I'm reading this from the screenshot. He said, yes, that is true. I had a list of items. I held her accountable. She criticized me on some points. I criticized her on some points. What else did she say? So Chase had told her not to tell anyone, I guess. And I said, I know she's been keeping the
No, he
company's.
didn't.
Oh,
Let me
no.
correct you there.
Oh,
He never once said, don't tell anybody about this. He just has an ongoing expectation that nobody talks to each other.
all right. Well, I said, I know she's been keeping the company's best interest at heart, doing what's best for her team and all that. And I think she thinks you think she's not doing that, and it's upsetting her. She's stressed right now, and when she gets stressed, she sees things more negatively. And he said, I regret that she made something that was between her and me and that financial officer specifically. And then she decided to make about you. Well, include you. I said, if you're I was probably typing this before, but I don't know. I said if you're happy with her job performance overall, please just, give her some positive feedback on specific things. He said, I feel like she is involving you in order to leverage you, and that makes me feel even more disrespected, and I feel like this is a self-fulfilling prophecy. She gets afraid of being abandoned and then takes it out on us. Performance is fine in general. I only addressed a few issues based on performance. The rest of it is not performance related, such as me feeling disrespected constantly. And then she runs to the others and complains about it, and I have everyone mad at me, when the reality of the situation is no one should be mad at me. So, Emily, what would anyone want to do in that situation? I said, I'm not sure. Did she make me mad at you for something? I honestly don't know, Emily, because sometimes you call me out to my face, and sometimes you don't, and so I can't always tell where I stand. However, I do know it is inappropriate for Cassie to even involve you for this situation. She hit our financial officer pretty hard, me as well, and I called her out. I'm like, she hit you? That's informative for disrespected.
I also want to state, just because it was mentioned, the only person I ever turned to talk to about things was Emily, and maybe one other person who was in the higher tier of things, who later left the company anyway. But it was never talking shit. It was expressing frustration over mutual things having to do with the job. Like, oh, I tried to get Chase to make that video today, but he didn't do the video, and it's really frustrating because we need it out for this, and this reason. It was not talking shit. It was expressing general frustration with the workplace. And it was with people who worked for him. It's not like I went to everybody in the company and bitched and moaned to them. It was quiet, and it was not a remark on his person. It had entirely to do with the fact that things weren't getting done. He was demanding them get done, but wasn't actually doing anything to help that process.
Mm-hmm.
And in general, had frustration. And my God, if anybody wants to comment on that, you've never had a job before. Just saying right now. If you've never had frustration, I do not believe you.
No, my job is just so wonderful, everything about it. So Chase says, I've already done so much for her, and so have you. And I'm like, and you should know this, when someone is really stressed out, the mind can wander. I think I might have broken up a little bit. I was really fast at taking screenshots, so I miss a little bit. And it says, Chase put in quotes, does anyone around here realize you are doing them a favor? ? Unquote. It's not that I am not generous, but it's when my generosity is taken advantage of, it causes me to take pause. And I think we're both kind of talking to ourselves, because I'm like, so that's why I said, if you're happy with her job performance, please give her positive feedback on stuff that she does.
Oh, yeah. He thinks he is a little godling, by the way. He thinks that what he does is so benevolent and so graceful, and that he is above any type of criticism whatsoever. And how dare you even speak his holy name?
So basically, I knew Cassie thought that she thought Chase wasn't happy with her, so I'm like, Chase, you said you're happy with her performance, just fucking tell her, and then we can just go about our day. And he says, I've done this publicly many times, including the Icons project. I feel like she's just making me look bad for the sake of demonizing me at this point. I don't have any of these problems with her. These things are pointing you out. These things you are pointing out. I get you're saying I am ungrateful, but my actions have proven otherwise, and she knows that. I'm sorry. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe that's because maybe she's upset because you can't hide that you think she's nefarious. So that's what happens when one behaves nefariously. So
let me reiterate again. This job was my livelihood. I was literally dependent on it to live. So why in the fuck would I try to jeopardize that? Any sane, rational person wouldn't do anything to jeopardize their job. At no point in time.
For the whole time the two of us worked for him, we did so much for him, for his company. We did our best to make him money and organize things, and it didn't make any sense. But I completely trust Cassie, so that's basically when he alienated me. Well, started to. There's some worse things coming.
I also want to point out how defensive he was from the get-go. Like, this wasn't an attack on him. She had a reasonable conversation with him, which he was so paranoid about that he assumed that I had told her everything that was happening. He assumed that I had told her all the little intimate, gritty details of our conversation from earlier, and he was so quick to defend himself. And I'm pretty sure because he knew what he did to me was wrong on that phone call. And he was so quick to be like, no, she's the one at fault. Look at her. She's the one who's being nefarious. Look at all what she's doing, and she's making me look bad, and she's doing it on purpose to turn you against me, and da-da-da-da-da, and like...
I'm pretty sure what he was doing was he was trying to turn me against you, which was not going to happen. So he didn't want me to sympathize with you at all.
No.
He wanted to turn me against you, but accused you of turning me against him.
Look at how she manipulated you. Look at how she duped you. My God, don't I seem like such a better person than her?
So
yeah, I've heard that argument before.
Going on, it says, okay, so I said maybe she's upset with you because you can't hide that you think she's nefarious. She sensed a change in how you treat her. He said that's what happens when one behaves nefariously. When I specifically ask her not to do something, she ignores me and does it anyway, even to the point of making me feel like I have no opinion, or my opinion is not valid here. This situation is not about drama, it's not about performance, it's about her actions, disrespectful actions. So I notice now that he wasn't actually addressing anything that I was saying. He was basically completely ignoring it just to make Cassie out to be an asshole. And I saw this, so I said, okay, when was the last time you told her she did a good job on something? He continues, on top of some unforeseen negative consequences to those actions, she's making this situation worse. He answers the question. When I gave her a raise, when I thanked her for involvement with the Icons project, when I thanked her for handling cunt customer for so often, when I thanked her for meeting the creative team, melding the creative team with the marketing team, when I thanked her for organizing, getting the information together we needed to go to the lawyer, I have said the words, I couldn't do this without you, to her multiple times. So I said, no, I mean like time-wise. I asked when was the last time, not tell me everything you said to her. He said, it's not my fault she forgets. So I'm like, a week? A month? He says, almost daily. Although not since midway during the Disneyland trip, because that's the day she disrespected me publicly in front of the team. So that was like over a month later. He thought he was like saying good job to you, you're wonderful daily,
He never
except he
once said that to
forgot
me.
for a month.
He never once said that to me. He never said, wow, Cassie, you're doing a great job. He would say it publicly in meetings in front of everybody else if it came up, if maybe I said something. But he never actually said that to me. He would say things like, oh man, Cassie, I hope that you work for me until 30 years from now when we're a big, huge conglomerate, and things like that. That's not an appreciation for the work I've done. That's him trying to
manipulate you
sucker
to
me.
keep working.
Pretty much. So, like, there was never a direct compliment. So, oftentimes, a continuous thing was there was a particular person who may or may not still work for him. I'm not sure entirely. But he would always be like, we really got to reward this person. We got to reward this person for being on the team, for working so hard for me, and da-da-da-da. And I'm just like, what about all the other people who work hard for you? And he's like, oh, well, okay, I guess we can reward them too. And that was about the time where I gave out, with his permission and the financial officer's permission, some gift cards as appreciation to some of the employees in the company. Now, he took on another person who also did the same type of work, but happened to be female, and she was secondary. She did the same thing he did for the same price, which was free, and Chase would still insist on giving a gift card to the male employee, but only when I was like, what about the female employee? Was he like, oh yeah, I guess we could do that for her too. Like, just to give a kind of a sense of where his priorities are. He was all about complimenting his employees if they were male.
He complimented
Every
me
male
quite a bit.
employee. Yeah. After he decided that you were doing everything that I was hired to do. Because at some point he started thinking that too, especially in one conversation he had with me. He was like, what exactly is Emily doing for you? And then I listed it out. That was about the time where he wanted an audit on every single person in the company and exactly what they did.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
because he didn't know what was going on with his own company.
right. And I gave it to him within like an hour. And yeah, this is also about the time, it was after he quit his job and about when he was starting to look, I'm going to say 90% certain, after the events that transpired with Emily and him and that conversation she was reading out, he ended up firing me in the end of it just because retaliation. But I'm pretty sure, like I said to her before that conversation even occurred, I was pretty certain he was going to fire me anyway. And the reason being for is I'm pretty sure he wanted my paycheck. I was making 19 an hour for 35 hours a week, and he had just quit his job. So in order to be able to pay for everything in his business and to give himself a paycheck, he was going to have to fire maybe one or two people. Now, mind you, it's not like it's a secret that he lives in California, and California is goddamn expensive. So, like, he would have had to fire multiple people in his company to be able to afford where he was living. Or he had to fire me and take over my job and make enough to pay himself.
Which he didn't actually, because I'm sure there for a good while his emails and everything went unanswered.
Oh, they're probably still unanswered, quite frankly. He had me answer his emails for a good long while. Surprise! Some of those conversations were not exactly with Chase. But anyway.
So we're about a half an hour deep into this. We should probably just call this part 1 and then go on to part 2.
Excellent idea. All right. Well, so long. Farewell.
If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. If you want to hear more, hit that subscribe button. And feel free to ask any questions you have down in the comments below. At some point, we're going to do a Q&A video, so all of the questions that you may have asked us before or want to ask us about working for Chase or being his moderator or even about Chase if we know it, now's your time. We'll actually answer now that we're not trying to protect his business.
Absolutely. Anything goes.
And feel free to share this video with your typology friends on Reddit, Discord servers, wherever.